Thank you, Sky. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Community in Citrus Heights on Zoom this morning. Please join us in singing our opening song, which is Stand.
Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. Let there be peace. I am a stand for peace. Let there be love. I am a stand for love. Let there be joy. I am a stand for joy. We are making a new world now. We are making a new world now.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Community's Stay at Home Sunday service on Zoom. We meet weekly at Sylvan Community Center in Citrus Heights, but one Sunday a month. And this month, 2 Sundays, we stay home and join from afar. And we have the opportunity to come together from wherever we are, welcoming you from your homes and bringing in inspiring speakers and musicians from far and wide. So we welcome all of you who are on Zoom or YouTube Live today. I'm Lisa Lawson. I'm licensed Unity teacher here at Unity Spiritual Community. And today I'm joined by Sky Nelson Isaacs, who's our guest speaker and musician. And I believe he's joining us from El Cerrito. Is that right? Okay. Yeah. Thanks for being here, Sky. We've crossed the threshold into the new year. It's January 5th, and tomorrow marks the close of the Christmas season. Traditionally, January 6th is Epiphany. And in the Christmas story, this marks the coming of the wise men. So as we put away our colored lights and wistfully but inevitably take down our Christmas tree, we open to the wisdom that brings our next illumination. In the next 2 weeks, we'll have rituals of release and new beginnings with our burning bowl service and also the white stone ceremony. So I invite you to prepare for this time by settling into your spiritual gift of wisdom, by acknowledging and celebrating the Christ within. So let us take a sacred breath together, appreciating the holiness of this moment as we experience through the energetic connections of the universe. We experience our unity, and we appreciate each one of you who's joining us, and we know that you are here by divine appointment. So now I'd like to invite Reverend Carla to read today's daily word.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, everyone. Today is January the 5th, 2025, the first Sunday of a new year. And the word for today is strength. God's strength is my strength. Say to yourself, God's strength is my strength. If I identify solely with my human nature, I may feel daunted by my cares and duties and by the state of the world itself. When I feel small or ill-equipped to face troubling situations or uncertain circumstances, I remind myself I am never without the power of divine strength within me. The awesome strength of God is inexhaustible and without limitation. Anything I may be called to face is no match for divine strength. As I grow in spiritual understanding, I realize that I need not pray for God's help. Instead, I claim the strength of God as an aspect of my divine identity, and I affirm divine strength is mine. I am strong in spirit. As these words grow in my consciousness, I feel better able to keep life's struggles in perspective and remember I am strong in God. Our scripture for today is from Habakkuk 3:19. God the Lord is my strength, and the word for today is strength. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Reverend Carla. And now we'd like to sing a congregational song, one of Sky's songs.
Do I have the right mic on here? Can you hear me?
Yes.
This song came in 2020 during a really challenging period of difficult choices for me, not feeling great about myself and my choices. And this big storm came through. I remember that storm, and it was both daunting and also liberating. So here this is for you. Leaning forward in my seat, leaning forward in my seat. I'm a rainbow in the sky. I'm a rainbow in the sky. Leaning forward in my seat. Leaning forward in my seat. I'm a rainbow in the sky. I'm a rainbow in the sky. And I wake up to the sound of the thunder and the wind. And I walk out in the rain. And I let myself relax into who I am. And I'm freed of my pain. Leaning forward in my seat. Leaning forward in my seat. I'm a rainbow in the sky. I'm a rainbow in the sky. Leaning forward in my seat. Leaning forward in my seat. I'm a rainbow in the sky. 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 Let's all sing that together. I'm a rainbow in the sky. 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 Again. I'm a rainbow in the sky. I'm a rainbow in the sky. I'm a rainbow in the sky. I'm a rainbow in the sky.
Thank you, Sky. And at this time, we have a featurette by Sky, which will introduce the beginning of your talk, I believe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Switch microphones here. Okay. Welcome to physics class, everybody. Get out your pencils and paper. So I've got a experiment here for you. You share my screen. Share. Oops. Looks good. Okay, do you see that? On the right, there's a little video of what I'm going to show you live. So you can hear me okay on the microphone? Is it this mic? No, you can't hear me enough? Is this loud?
It's good when you're close to your mic, but it was sounded like it was cutting out. Do you have your original sound on?
Just here we go. Original sound. Okay, so I'm going to talk. You let me know if it's loud enough. So I'm going to talk about polarization in physics. Polarization is a concept having to do with electric charge. I'm going to start with a piece of styrofoam. Can you hear me okay? Okay, so styrofoam out of your closet or garage in packaging. Regular old styrofoam. And a piece of wool. I got in my sock drawer. Real wool, not fake wool. And rub it. And I'm rubbing charges of electricity, electrons, onto the foam. So you might know that most material is neutral. The sock is neutral. The foam is neutral. But they have a particular interaction where it loses electrons from the sock to the foam. So now the foam is charged. So excess of charge. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. So I take the metal plate, which is a pie tin from a local bakery, a cup on top that's made of plastic so it doesn't conduct. The plate is metal, so it conducts electricity, and it's neutral. You can see the picture below here on the screen. There's a neutral plate that I just charged with electricity. So it's negative on the bottom. The bottom thing, the foam, is electricity charged. Where's my pointer? Um, but the metal is neutral until I put it close to the foam. And we know that the opposite charges attract and like charges repel. So the positives are attracted to the foam from the metal. The electrons are pushed away. Can you see the diagram there on the bottom? We've got a metal plate tilted up in the top. And the negatives are sort of at the top lip. They're pushed upwards. Again, the metal is neutral overall. It's got the same amount of electrons and protons in every atom. So it's aluminum. It's got 13 or something protons every atom and 13 electrons around it. But because it can conduct electricity, the electrons want to get far away from that foam. The foam is negative. So the electrons can move. They can push up. They can move. I'm going to rub one more time. I'm charging up the styrofoam with extra charge. But the metal is neutral. And then I'm going to touch it with my finger. Listen carefully. Watch my finger. I'm not so shocked. I'm trying. This is a spark.
Sky, can you show that to us without sharing? Because I don't know if everybody's going to know how to get the big picture.
Without sharing. Well, I'm going to show you on the video.
Okay.
So I charge up the foam, I drop the plate onto it. There's a little spark that happens. Repeats. Drop the plate on. Watch my finger touch it. There's a little spark.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear that.
Mm-hmm.
See some heads nodding. Good. And you can just repeat it. And I can pull the plate off and I can do it again. I can lift it up and charge it again by, now it's got less electrons than I had before because when I touch it, I'm connected to the earth. I'm connected to the earth. And so all the electrons leave, they want to get far away from the phone. So they leave the metal through my finger to the earth. Let's try one more time with big screen. Do you want to feature me?
We see you. Yeah, you're featured.
And it doesn't always work when you do things live, but it's pretty fun. Drop the plate on. The neutral plate is now polarized, equal amounts of positive and negatives, but the negatives are up to the top. When I touch it, oh, it must be too damp in here or something. They escape from my plate into my finger into the earth. I am connected to the ground. So polarization in physics is an interesting concept for these reasons I want to share. And it connects to what we call polarization in society. There's some parallels. So in physics, we have electrical charges that are causing the energy. Important is to realize that the object is neutral. This plate is neutral. It's got equal amounts of charge of both kinds. But they get pushed up, as you can see in the picture. Negatives get pushed away upwards in the picture. Positives stay where they are, so there's a net charge positive on the downside. And so they get divided. They get pushed to different regions, the positives and the negatives. And so polarization is a context-dependent concept. Something is not even charged. There's no actual net. You can't say it's positive or negative. It's both. It's neutral. But there's a distribution of charge that makes it energetic. So the positive is positive because it's in relationship to the negative, right? If you do the negative on the other side of the plate, you wouldn't be polarized. You just have a positive charge. So polarization is important because it's this neutral thing, but things are spread apart in such a way that there's energy tension in there. It's dependent on the context. The positives rely on the negatives to create that energy. And you see in this process, there's a cyclical tension. You build up the charge. When I give it a path to the ground through my finger, it jumps across and sparks. It releases the tension. And I didn't show you this, but when I lift it up again, I can recharge it without rubbing the sock again. So I can create this cycle of discharging and charging, discharging and charging between the pan and the earth with all the source of electrons in the earth. So I love this concept of polarization because it's not, there's no better thing. It's not better to be positive or negative. It's the relationship between the two and how they're spread apart that matters. We'll come back to that when we talk about people and how we feel and how we are together as one neutral society, and yet we separate ourselves into these energetic distributions.
Thank you, Sky. It's been
Thank
a while
you.
since we've had a physics lesson, so we appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us, how it relates to our humanity.
It's fun.
We're going to take a moment now to bless our prayer requests. We all have concerns in our hearts, concerns for ourselves and loved ones, for things happening in the world. And we just draw those all into the circle of love right now, circle of peace, of unity, knowing that we are all one in the Christ Spirit, that there is divine order and that all is well. And we lift these concerns. We lift them into this love, into this wisdom and knowledge, so that we can release and move into a place of perfect peace. So we give thanks today, knowing that all is well. Amen. You may contact us if you'd like personal prayer at info@unitycitrusheights.org, or you can call Silent Unity or make a prayer request online or on the Be Unity app. Silent Unity is there for you at night as well as during the day. So I encourage you to do that. So we're going to now go on and have another song from Sky.
Right. Oops. Testing my. Whoops, too far. You can see me click again. Okay.
Can you just, we're not getting your piano, Sky. I'm not sure if your original sound's not on or if there's a setting.
Original sound.
There you
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
It's okay. I don't need you to say sorry if your words don't come out right. I've got space to allow it to be broken. Wanna feel your other side. Let's be gentle but honest. Tell it like it is, to open up a path inside. When I think I know you, I may be wrong. You're just a part of a real human being. If I try to show you just the better sides of me, you're just a part real human being. I'm just a part of a real human being. Go ahead and tell your story. Wanna hear it come from you. Open-hearted's never boring. Let me know if there is something I can do. I'll be gentle but honest. Tell it like it is. To open up a path inside. When I think I know you, I may be wrong. You're just a part of a real human being. If I try to show you just the better sides of me, they're just a part of a real human being. I'm just a part of a real human being. I've got a past to heal from. You got things you're scared to say. Let's not hold it all together. Perfect just gets in the way. When I think I know you, I may be wrong. You're just a part of a real human being. If I try to show you just the better sides of me, they're just a part of a real human being. I'm just a part of a real human being. We're all just parts of real human beings. as we settle in, I'm going to switch microphones again. I believe we got the correct mic now, yeah. And change heights. I'm very adaptable. And I should tell you, in the physics classroom, we start classes again tomorrow, and you just have to be so adaptable. So you got kids coming in with different needs and different questions and things going on, and you're like, how can I help you? How can I help you? How can I help you? And then the experiment doesn't work, and you're like, well, let me explain it to you. You can't see it for yourself, but let me explain it to you. So it's fun to be adaptable. And I want to talk today about this polarization concept that I described to you in physics, but you've got this word polarization in society, right? That's really big right now. And it's not the first time, right? I'm reading about the Civil War and how much polarization there was then and many times in history. But it's pretty intense right now. We're very aware of it. And I wanted to share a concept, a set of tools that I think might be useful, called SEW, S-E-W. Style, emotions, and wholeness. We can sew up our polarized conversations, right? Because there's these ruptures in our relationships with people that we thought we knew really well, and we do know them. And yet there's an issue that we're polarized about. Polarized means there's equal amounts of opinion about both sides, but they're split right down the middle. It's neutral, but it's split. And so I can be talking with someone I know, and we're good friends, and we bring up a topic like whatever it is, it's a hot button issue, and we suddenly like totally disagree. Can't believe what they think. I'm not sure if I ever want to see them again, whatever it is. It's amazing how intense it can be. So how can we sew that up, those ruptures? And I'll remind you that we've got the physical polarization, you've got electrical charges creating energy. The pi tin is neutral. It's made of metal that has neutral electrons and protons together, but they're divided. The electrons get to the top, protons stay at the bottom. We've got this charge distribution, this sandwich of the top and the bottom together. So it's context dependent. There's no energy from the top if there's not energy in relationship to the bottom. It's their relative position they get charged. And there's a cyclical tension and release that builds up and it builds up and it builds up, and then you discharge it. And a spark. You can feel the spark. There's energy, there's work in the spark. So it got me thinking about polarization in politics and in society. Why do we call it polarization? It's a really good word because it captures a lot of what's happening. There's emotional charge, right? Not electrical charge, but we've got some emotion about the topic we're talking about. It turns out we're neutral. This country, for instance, is pretty evenly split around many topics, but we're divided. So we've moved to parts of the country where we agree with people. There's a movement in the world today. I read about it, that people actually, as they move out of their houses, as when they turn 18 or when they just move with their families and settle down, you go to a part of the country that they feel they fit in with. There's this diaspora separating those on one side from those on the other, getting more divided. But again, we're neutral overall. There's not a right answer. That's really important. And it's context dependent. First of all, my sense of what's right is based on my life and my experiences and my values. And the energy of the charge is because somebody else has this different view of the same situation and has different values. And it may not even be different values, it may be a different context, right? They have had different experiences with those values and they think about things differently. And we'll give some examples in a minute. And there's a cyclical tension, as we saw in the election process, as the debates, chances where you pick the running mates and you see energy build on these campaigns. And then there's this release when the election happens and things sort of start to flow in a direction. Not everybody's happy with the direction, but there's this release of the tension. You know what's going to come next in a way. And so this cyclical buildup and discharge. Very similar to the physical process. So I like the name polarization. It's really good. So I talked to voters a lot in the last 15 years, actually, last few elections especially. And I volunteer as a phone banker, and I talk to people in Arizona and Washington, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and all sorts of states. And it's hard work. I don't enjoy it in a way. It's like I don't like talking to strangers. I don't know who does, but I get a lot out of it. I have these great conversations, and I feel like I start to understand more about what is this conflict, this polarizing conflict. So it keeps me coming back and wanting to learn more. And what do I understand about it? Well, I have found it's often our perceptions, not real differences. We don't disagree on the values, actually. It's our perceptions of the values and our perceptions of what's the right response to a situation that divide us. I talked with, for example, one woman named Kristen in West Virginia about a climate-related bill a couple years ago. And she was my last call of the day. And she said, well, it's funny, I just got in the car, there's a ton of traffic. I'll be in the car for an hour. I can talk. And I said, okay. Seems to be interesting. We talked for a long time, and I found a lot of commonality with her. She values her family, her kids a lot. She loves doing the same things I do with them, with my kid. She values traveling for the sake of widening her kids' perspectives. And she's an environmentalist. Her husband works for the local sanitation district, and she cares about the environment. West Virginia is a beautiful place. And yet she has different views on climate change than I do, sort of opposite sides of the spectrum. So are we really different? Does she not have the same values as me, or is there a different context that makes us view different facts differently and have a different response to the solutions that we think are correct? And I do believe that she cares as much as I do about the environment. So where's the give, right? What's the distinction between us? And I learned through some of these cases that I'm a little crazy too, right? Like I realize I let go of examples that don't fit my narrative. I'll talk about this one, it's Solyndra. When Obama came into office, there was a big push for investment in climate change, energy, technology, and we invested in Solyndra, the solar company, that ended up going bankrupt. I kind of forgot about that. It doesn't fit my narrative that we should be, investing in climate, solar power and stuff. But this one, Kristen was like, that was a great example of how the government shouldn't get involved in business, right? And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that. I learned some of the things from her about coal. Like, I didn't realize there's different qualities of coal, and we export the good coal to other countries, and that's not such a great plan because we need that for our domestic production. And so there's these political things that I'm not even aware of that she knew more about. And another example, there's a reason why folks might not trust that the government's going to properly retrain workers when we switch away from the coal power, because in the past there have been programs that have done that poorly. So I learned these things that I didn't know about. I got educated and realized I'm a little crazy too. I'm a little bit passionate about things that I'm not fully informed on. And it eased my mind to realize I'm not living in a crazy world. I'm part of this situation, and I need to learn from people just so that they need to learn from me. Maybe feel more at peace, which is what I was hoping. Because if we think we live in a world that just doesn't make any sense at all, that's kind of crazy making, right? So I thought back to what does it mean to have friends and enemies? And I thought about my own experience with that. I had this kid named Chris in my middle school, my only fist fight. And I got in fights with my brother, but there was love there too. So it wasn't quite the same thing. But Chris and my memories, we used to play at his house. He lived around the block. I remember him coming over to my house a couple times. But one day at school, My memory is, rose-colored glasses. I was the hero. He was picking on somebody, and I intervened, and because I was standing up for this kid. That's my memory. It's probably not quite right, but I think Chris probably, pushed me out of the way, and I went to get him back, and he ran. I chased him around the school, caught up with him at this other spot. We started swinging our fists like, 12-year-olds do, 11-year-olds. And I wasn't at all good at hitting, and I don't think I hit him once. And he got me on the ground, and we were wrestling, and he pinned me down, and I lost. What's weird about that situation is he was a friend of mine. There's this real animosity at that moment. It's like, it's hard for me to understand what's our relationship here. What context are we friends? What context are we enemies? And are either of those labels really accurate? Do they actually mean something useful, or is it fluid? Another time I was bullied by this kid named Josh. The only time I remember being really physically bullied. I did feel bullied, plenty in different ways, but this time I remember being pushed up against the lockers by this kid. I think I had said something mean to, sort of snarky to his girlfriend in class. He pulled me outside of school in the locker room and said, "If you ever say anything like that to my girlfriend again, I'm gonna, you know." And I was like, okay, whatever. What was funny about this though was that I used to ride home on the bus with him. It was like a long rural bus ride, 25 minutes or so. There's only 10 of us on the bus. So it was me and him a lot for a good period of time. And we used to joke and laugh. And he was from a different community than me. He was sort of a farm kid. I was more of a city, academic kind of guy. But we joked around on the bus and we were friends. So to be bullied by him was like, which is it? Like, I thought we were good. And so what changes in a situation that makes someone an ally or an opponent? What is it in our relationships with people in our lives right now that makes us trust them on these issues that are polarized or not? And how does one issue show up in our lives and make us not want to talk to someone? And I think it has a lot to do with this context and what did I say? Not real differences, but our perceptions. The stories we write in our heads about these things. So I'm going to give you the 3 tools to sew up a polarized conversation. Personal style. Notice how personal style is actually part of the equation here. We're just different from people. Not around the issues themselves, but around who we are in the world, how we operate in the world. Are we hypersensitive, or are we kind of gruff? Are we decisive or indecisive? I mean, those are judgments we might make of people, but they're not polarized topics. They're just qualities of who we are in our style. That's the first thing. Emotions that might be misattributed. So we're getting into a conversation about climate. We realize that the person is really concerned about financial implications of government spending on climate, not about climate itself. It's important to draw that into the conversation, not get stuck on, why don't you believe in climate change? Or why you focus on climate change when you should be caring about the economics. And it's both sides, there's no right side. That's the second thing, we're looking at for misattributed charged emotions. And finally, wholeness, my favorite topic. We're limited in our perspective always, right? We come from our context, our families, our communities, our experiences. And to realize that might be some greater perspective that includes someone else's perspective and doesn't contradict yours, but is not in agreement with yours, I think is very empowering and helps me feel safer in the world, because I don't have to come to agreement with people, and I can still build a container that holds both of us. So talking about style, here's my family on vacation last summer in Europe. I just wanted to share this with you because it's fun. Showing off our style there. That's in, I think, Göttingen in Germany, the top left, the castle. And my daughter there in Cambridge at Newton's, near Newton's tree, the apple tree. That's not the apple tree itself, but you get the idea. climbing the tree, and my daughter and my wife there on the bottom left in Amsterdam, celebrating a dinner out with a friend that I happened to run into, there. It was amazing. And then me at the bottom right, showing off my Harry Potter style, wizard style. That is the street that inspired the alley in Harry Potter. What's the alley called? I'm not going to remember the name. But that's the magical shops. Lisa,
Diagon.
Diagon Alley. That's the original Diagon Alley in Scotland, Edinburgh. Magical place. I had the feeling when I was there that there was like no gravity. Everything was just kind of floating. Very mystical. So style. I've been thinking about how childhood social groups actually reflect adult political leanings. So jump to my friend Darby. Darby was a friend of Josh's. They were kind of in the same social group as kids in middle school. And she was into, she looked good. She was into makeup. She was kind of cool. I was kind of like a hippie computer gamer. We did not mix. But when I published my first book in 2019, Living in Flow, she wrote to me on Facebook and we reconnected. And she was like, I love this stuff. I'm all about synchronicity. Everything happens for a reason. And we realized we were on opposite sides of the politics. But we got along great. We respected each other's views, but we were very clearly on opposite sides about what we stood for. And I actually ran into Josh also and had sort of a similar interaction, and started thinking about how our social groups and that we gravitated towards as kids and the way we think about our style in the world predetermines in a way what we're going to believe in politically. We're going to group ourselves, which is encouraging to me because if we're just grouping ourselves according to style, it's less about the topic, more about just who we want people to be and our judgments of them. And that's always hard anyway, but easier to work with when it's just a personal preference. And so this woman also that I talked to in West Virginia, Kristen, had a similar thing where she talked about valuing self-reliance, which I do too. I'm pretty self-reliant, but there's a difference there. She felt like businesses should make decisions for themselves. The government shouldn't be involved. There should be less of regulation. And I think regulation can be very important for climate change or for social justice. But she sort of saw it as kids on the playground who just should duke it out, figure out who's on top. And I thought that analogy was really interesting because it brought us back to the playground, right? I was one of those kids at school that wanted the teachers there to supervise. I was afraid I'd get pushed around and it wasn't fair. But other people were more comfortable like figuring it out for themselves, and I respect that. So it brings me away from the charge of the issue and into I wouldn't get along with this person anyway. So how can I use that to my advantage to build a bridge? And as I've gotten older, I've been able to get along with people more who are different from me. So it's encouraging. It's not so much like 8th grade anymore. The second tool is misplaced emotions. So I talked with a guy named William about climate change, and he sort of kept naming all these things like, solar panels and wind turbines are created in China and they cost tons of money to ship the steel over here, and they're never going to generate that much power to make up for the cost. And I sort of disproved that. I sort of said, no, that's not true. Here's why. And then we talked about subsidies for energy supply, and I talked about why that's not true. And he kept jumping around, and I kept trying to disprove him, and it just wasn't a good conversation. And I realized at some point he had talked a lot about government involvement and concern about the debt. I realized he was really concerned about the expense. If we realize there's this existential threat in the world, we're going to have to deal with it collectively. And I really respect the concern about collective action that fiscal conservatives might have, that we don't want to raise taxes. We don't want to force people to move their location where they live due to climate regulations. And so I started to have more compassion for him, not about climate, but about his concern about economics. There's some real concerns there that I understand. And so recognizing that there's a peripheral issue, maybe it's religion, and somebody's really got a view from their religious beliefs about why climate change needs to be dealt with a certain way. And bring that peripheral issue into the picture is important. Otherwise, you just get caught up in a topic that's not really the topic. John Powell is a great speaker and academic intellectual out here in Berkeley. He points out that conservatives don't like Social Security, not because it's expensive, which is kind of the narrative, but because it's social. It connects us as humans, makes it harder to other somebody. And in society, we do have a sort of this need to make people other than us. It's easier to not have equality if we can say somebody else isn't the same as us. And so that's a tendency we have, and it's not about the expense of Social Security, but about the way it connects us. It's important to realize those connections that are emotional, maybe not just policy based. So misplaced emotions, becoming aware of what those might be that are in there. And finally, wholeness. So I'm not sure you recognize where this is, but I took a trip to Washington, D.C. with my family last spring. And I saw the Supreme Court was impressive. It was smaller than I expected, but it was still impressive. And then the Congress was just enormous and huge. The White House here was underwhelming, is not the right word. It's so underwhelming. I was really wondering what was going on. It was behind a fence. It was surrounded on all sides by buildings. And I was like, I thought the White House looked like this. Like a vast expanse of green slopes. And that's the picture I had because they frame it just right in this picture to exclude the city that's encroaching from all sides. And so how we frame things really affects what we interpret it to be. A perspective is shaped by what's shown and by what is hidden, what's not shown. So back to this example of Solendra, and this woman who talked to me about this solar company that failed, she's holding on to that for 10 years as the prime example that's driving her perspective on what government should do about this climate situation. And I let it go because it doesn't charge me up, and it's a data point that I think is not, it was a mistake, yeah, and I just let it go. So what we consider to be part of the picture and what we consider to be not part of the picture determines what story we're going to create about what's going on with climate change and what we should do about it, or social justice, or women's rights, or many of the other things that we could talk about, education. So do we cherry pick our examples, and can we remember that other people have different examples in their minds? We expand our mind to include their examples. In fact, just off the cuff here, I'm dealing with some family stuff with my parents, one of my parents, and being able to let in his examples of how I've behaved while also keeping my sense of who I am, what my stories are, is a way of expanding my sense of wholeness, right? I don't have to agree with him on the issues, but I can let in his perspective and expand my perspective. So the other example that comes to mind around politics is voting. I talked to some people around this issue, and they'd say something like, I don't get the problem. Why do we need more voting rights? Voting is easy. I go every year. I wait in line for 10 minutes. I vote and leave. What's the problem? And I talk to other people and they say, I don't have an address because I live on an Indian reservation. So my address is not the same as everybody else's. Like I can't register to vote, or I can't get off work because I work 2 jobs and I don't have a boss that cares about this. And I've got kids I got to get to school and back, and it's just not a priority. So there's actually 100 different stories about why it may or may not be easy to vote. And if my story is that it's easy, but I can't see at somebody else's situation, it's going to create this limited perspective. I'm going to think that somebody's crazy for thinking we need to fix something that's not broken. So understanding that there's many, many versions of life that I might not be aware of or can't even imagine. And by taking those in one at a time, I expand my wholeness, my understanding of what someone else might be going through. Personal example of this around co-parenting. You might know I'm a parent of a 15-year-old. And my wife went out for the night to go to a board meeting, left me home with my daughter, which maybe not the wisest idea. Because my daughter had a bunch of homework and a test, and I was tasked with making sure she got ready for school. So Ellie said, my daughter said, can I be done with dinner? I want to go talk on the phone with my friends before I do my homework. I said, sure. I go in a few minutes later and say, I said, you have 15 minutes. So I go in after 20 minutes and I say to her, I open the door, I say, it's been 15 minutes. Like implied, like, what are you doing? Get to work. I close the door and I assume she's going to get to work. I respect her, right? I trust her. And 10 minutes later, I don't hear anything. And I go back to her and she's still on the phone. And I'm like, what are you doing? Get to work. And she looks at me and said, I thought you said I could have 15 more minutes. She misunderstood what I said. I said, it's been 15 minutes. She thought I was giving her 15 more minutes. And now we've lost the night. And I almost erupted. I was so angry. I was like, I'm going to take your phone. It's in the drawer. You can't access it for a month. And then I realized in my life, I wanted to expand my wholeness. Because I remembered that my wife would be getting home soon. She'd walk in the door, Dana, and she would say, how's it going? I'd be like, I took Ellie's phone. It's in the door. She can't have it for a month. She's in there doing her homework, and Ellie's in tears, got this argument with me. That's one person of reality I could create. And Dana would be like, every time I leave the house and come home and there's this upset. Why do you guys perpetuate these upsets? It's so frustrating for me. And then there's some truth to that. There's a pattern for me of getting disciplined, suddenly really disciplined with Ellie when I want something to go a certain way. And I realized that in the bigger picture, the wholeness of the situation, it wasn't just about the homework that night, it was about the pattern over time, who I wanted to be to create harmony in my family, not just with my daughter, but with my wife, and also over time with my daughter. It's going to serve her to have better study habits, not just trauma around me exploding all over her. So by expanding our perspective and understanding other people's versions of reality, what stories they're holding on to, and what it's going to feel like tomorrow or in a week, what's the lesson we're going to take away from the situation? We gain a better sense of wholeness and expand our sense of who we are, connectedness. There's me at the White House. This picture was taken like 2 feet away from this one, right? Just the other side of the fence, but it looks pretty different. So what are we repairing? Connection. And I'm going to wrap up here because I know it's been a little bit of time. We're repairing connection with curiosity, drifting away from judgment to curiosity. Asking myself, maybe, what am I missing here? Why does this person think this way? What might they be feeling? What peripheral issues might be connected that I'm not aware of? They might not even be aware of. They're coming up for them. And expanding my perspective to integrate their framework into my own doesn't mean agreeing, but it means becoming more whole. Expanding my perspective doesn't mean agreeing. Doesn't mean validating their experience, but it does allow me to become more whole, part of the bigger whole that I'm part of in the world. So that's my hope for us. If there's some way in which you feel like you're stuck in a bubble and you feel nervous about what's going on outside the bubble, how could people be thinking what they're thinking or what's going to happen? Give you some tools to look at the style of people, how they might just be different kinds of people. That contributes to the views, the energy, the emotions they might be having, or you might be having, that's charging up the situation that might not be accurately attributed, and the wholeness that you can get from expanding to be able to incorporate both their view and yours without changing your vision of reality. So sew up your polarized relationships. Hope you find that helpful. And I'm going to transition into a song that invites us to recognize that people are different. Change the microphone. Can you hear me? La 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 la. La 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 la. We sit in darkness quietly, surrounded by a boiling sea, and I try to open my eyes a bit. For what I've seen, there are no words. The depth of how a soul can hurt, and I try to open my eyes a bit. Here in the dark, I will peel back the layers of my heart. I'll stay with you, and we'll open to the feelings that come through. Me and you. If you take the chance to say what's true, do you fear I'll raise my voice at you instead? Try to open my eyes a bit. Will I try to see the things you do with a little bit more room to move as I try to open my eyes a bit here in the dark? I will peel back the layers of my heart. I'll stay with you, and we'll open to the feelings that come through. Me and you. Although we come from different lives, I'll set my history aside to see your point of view. 'Cause underneath suspicious words, I hear the ways that you've been hurt, and I want to know the way things were for you. Here in the dark, I will peel back the layers of my heart. I'll stay with you, and we'll open to the feelings that come through. Me and you. I hear the light grow steadily. It's coming from inside of me, and I try to open my eyes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sky. Really, so appreciate your joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
All right. So we would just like to take a moment to thank everyone in this ministry who gives support in so many ways through your time and your talent and your treasure. It wouldn't happen without you. And we know that this is a great circle of giving and receiving, and that as your gifts pass through this community, your good is returned in even greater measure. So we open our hearts, we give generously today. We invite you to do that online at unitycitrusheights.org. And knowing that God is our supply, we say our prosperity affirmation together. I give thanks for my new vision of God as my infinite, constant, abundant source. And let's say that again. I give thanks for my new vision of God as my infinite, constant, abundant source. And so it is. We have just a few announcements. We will have a stay and chat today after service. So stick around. We want to hear how things are going in your life and talk with Sky a little bit more about what he's presented to us today. Next week, we'll be back at Sylvan Community Center. We'll be having our Burning Bowl service, which is a time of release in preparation for this new year. The next day, the day after that, is the full moon. And we'll be having a full moon circle on the 13th. And I'm not sure if we have the location established for that yet. So we will keep you posted. That'll be out for sure in this Friday's newsletter. The following week, we'll be having our White Stone service. So that completes our holiday services. The White Stone service is a time when we claim our new name, our place, our I am for the year, for the coming year. So these are special services, and I hope you'll join us for those. We'll be back on Zoom, the final service of the month, the 25th of January. Reverend Blair Tabor, who we had at the end of November, he'll be back with us to present as guest speaker and musician. So now let us sing our closing songs.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator, family all are we. Walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyful vow, to take each moment and live each moment peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And we know that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. God bless you all and have a wonderful week, and stay for the stay and chat.
We got a good thing going on around here. We got a good thing going on around here. You can see it on each and every face. There's a sweet, sweet spirit in this place. We got a good thing going on around here. We got a good thing going on. We got a good thing going on. We got a good thing going on. We got a good